Welcome everyone to Unscripted Coding. Today I want to show off my AI word plugin here, and we're going to talk a bit about how I built this with vibe coding tools. But first, let me show you what it can do. You can imagine this is AI powered. It's a word plugin, so it's built right into the Microsoft Word interface. Now, as I chat with the AI, it can interact with my document in different ways. Now here I have an engagement letter. This is something a law firm would give to you before you engage with them, before they agree to represent you. This would set out their services, the fees, and such. Now, this is just a template, but you can use the same tool for essays, for reports, for applications, for whatever you want. But here, I'm using it for this letter as a demonstration purpose. Now, I've asked AI to highlight all the placeholders in the document. These are sections that have square brackets that I have to fill out. And visually, this just makes it easier for me to figure out what I want to highlight. Now, sadly, welcome everyone to Unscripted Coding. Today, I want to show off my AI word plugin I've been working on over the last weekends. And let's just get started and ask the AI plugin here if it could highlight all the placeholder content in this document. Now, this is going to take a moment. There's quite a bit to parse through. But the document here has a bunch of these square brackets. It leaves it open for the user to fill out the name, the description, whatever it may be. And now we can visually see very quickly the amount of work we need to do to make this document live. So you can imagine with a lot of these templates, I forget to write something in. I miss the date here, but fill out everything else. This is just one way this tool can interact. Now I'm going to add another one here. I'm going to ask it to fill out the fees and the retainer. And so it's going to redline some of these changes, or at least I expect it to. But let me tell you about the document itself. This is an engagement letter. This is what a law firm would hand to you before they represent you, telling us what the fees are, what the retainer is, how much they charge, what services they offer. So as expected, they filled out the retainer, and the fees as I asked. And so all I did was in plain English ask, can you fill in the fees and the retainer? Our hourly rates are $400 an hour across the board for all positions. Very unrealistic. And the retainer is $2,500. So it went in and used redlines. And so for those of you that don't do a lot of redlining when you use Microsoft Word, it's under the Review tab, and you can do track changes. And so if it's off, as it is right now, I can make some changes and say, write something in like this. But if I turn on track changes, I can just delete this, and this will let the users see what's wrong or what has been changed. Really helpful if 2 or more people are working on the same document. So when you see this, you can right-click and accept or reject a deletion. And so I'm going to reject this one, but the rest look perfectly fine. Now I'm going to ask it to make a few bigger changes. Now these are quite surgical, but what if I want to rewrite a whole section? And so here I just picked the largest one. I'm going to ask it to rewrite the disbursement section here. This is a bit wordy, and I'm going to ask it to change, and hopefully it'll replace the whole paragraph by itself. There we go. So it's a shorter version. I'm not going to read it and judge it right now. And finally, the last thing that's really useful is that it can leave comments. So here, I actually don't see, I'm not sure what this advanced waiver of conflict of interest is. So I'm going to ask the chatbot to leave a comment in line about how to use this section. And so you'll see a comment appear on the side. Zoom out a little bit. We can ask it to pepper it with changes, with comments, and all of that along the way. I don't think we care so much what it says specifically, but those are the few tools that are built into this AI word plugin. Actually, there are a couple more pieces I want to share with you before we dive into how it was built. First is a settings page. Now, one way you could provide this is as a service. I could potentially sell subscriptions and so on, but really I'm asking folks to provide their own key. Bring your own API key, and in this case, I'm using Gemini. Now, the reason I use Gemini is because I do a lot of legal work. I'm building this for my own use, and Gemini has been really, really, really good in terms of writing legal language. Now, it hallucinates and it's far from perfect, but I do think that Gemini 2.5 and now 3 are really quite good with legal documents. Aside from that, there are a system message. So in my case, I asked it to be an in-house counsel, meaning a lawyer working within a company, assisting with legal documents. You can change this to whatever you want. You can say, you are a 10th grade student working on English essays. You can say you are a Spanish speaker writing a report all in Spanish. You can change the system message to match your own persona so it has an idea of what your goals and objectives are. Now, this can go very, very long, and I think that's important. When I start using this more at work, I'm going to be describing in greater detail what my role is, what the company is, what we do, what our worries are, and that gives it more and more context so that it can accurately make changes to your document. The last two settings here, sorry, let me go back. Before that, we do have a choice of models. Now, I chose 2.5 Flash because it's the fastest. I didn't want, nobody was reading this document in this video, but in reality, if I was using this tool, I would be using Gemini 3.0 Pro preview just to get the best results, to get the best analysis. Sorry, the last bit here is glance. Now, this is a feature that I haven't seen on any other plugins yet. Now, I've seen very, very few plugins, to be fair. Just a few that are legal focused, and they're really expensive. That's why I'm building my own. But what I have always wanted was something that automatically does a few sanity checks right at the start. As soon as I open a brand new document, I wanted to check my grammar and spelling and maybe some obvious terms. So in this case, I have grammar and spelling and contract favorability. And here, the question is the contract bad for one named party? Is it skewing in one or another direction? Now, if I have a big red dot here that's saying like, this is horrible for the client, I want to know about that, and then I can have chats with the chatbot afterwards, and go, why do these terms favor the firm? And it can function as a natural chatbot as well. It doesn't have to comment or interact with the document. It can make an analysis that you can read on your own as well. Okay. So we've gone over the features. It can highlight, it can redline, it can leave comments, and it can chat and do analyses. Now, we have this glance feature. These are all useful. How did I build this out? Well, I used a combination of different tools, but the big one here is Google's new anti-gravity. Now, anti-gravity is a fork of Visual Studio Code, VS Code. And so for those of you who do program, this will look very familiar. Now, I'm not zoomed in because the code really doesn't matter. What I want to say is that this has been built virtually with no interaction on my end. I have not gone into the JS files or the HTML files. Instead, I have been interacting with this agent manager. And so every time I have a new feature or a new idea, I click here. And let me see if I can zoom in a bit further. I click into the plus button, start a new conversation, and I just talk to it. Now it does have this pane to show you what's happening, but I've tried really hard not to interact with it. Now, as these things, as you ask it for things, so in this case, I gave it an error and asked it to fix, it either goes straight and does it because it's a simple ask like this one, or it will give you an implementation plan. And so this document would have shown up on the side here, and you can then comment here. So you can click comment, add comments, make changes to this plan, and then execute it. So normally there's an implement feature. It usually has a series of tasks that it will check off along the way. That way, if the AI gets stuck or you stop halfway, it still has a plan and understands the progress it's made. Now, anti-gravity runs on Gemini 3.0. It ran really well, but I do separately use Roo and Cursor as well. And so I was actually using two forks of Visual Studio Code and asking it to do things. I've used Roo because that was my access to Claude models. And so very quickly, different models are good at different things. Claude was really good at zeroing in on bugs and fixing those errors, whereas Gemini seemed to have really good sense of front end, looks, style, feel. So I have found that that the design looks actually quite reasonable. Now, these system messages, I will be getting rid of them, or at least making them more friendly when I go, but this looks really clean. This looks like something I can package and sell, honestly. So Google Gemini has been really good about design, has been really good about getting the structure and overall approach set up and creating that framework, getting it to, let's say, 85%, and Claude just polishes out the bugs and refactors a little bit better. Okay, that's all interesting, but that's all just, chatter. What I wanted to show is the process in which this was built. So I'm just going to close this up. And for me, one of the things that vibe coders that have no programming experience should really learn is source control. Every time something is working, put it in, save it so that you can roll back. And so if I start vibe coding right now, add a new feature, and either the AI goes nuts because internet connection broke, something went wrong, and it threw off the whole thing, or it just did a terrible job, you can roll back. And what I found very interesting was just how I was building at this point. It used to be if I coded by hand, I'd have way more of these, and they'd explain every little thing. Whereas here, I am just asking AI to add new features, refine an approach, and so these commits are a lot broader, a lot more general, but they're also helpful to show you what I've done. And so first of all, when I started, I had kind of an idea. I'm not the first one to build one of these AI plugins. And so I had an idea that it would be a chatbot on the side. It would be able to redline. And so the very first thing I did was save a working copy. And to Google's credit, anti-gravity immediately put in something working. And I asked it to update the CSS with the color scheme I like. I added Markdown support because let me find it. These chats were in Markdown, so there wasn't this bulleting or bolding, italics, and all of that. Instead, it had just brackets, stars, asterisks, uh, and such. So the Markdown format makes it prettier. And then the problems started. So here, more CSS changes, but here I realized that the red line was not working reliably. And if I'm being completely honest, this one is getting quite good, but it's not 100% reliable still. It struggles very much with charts here and bullets. Bullets still works pretty good. Charts are really, really painful. Um, and the idea here is if you use the word API, and again, you kind of need to know sort of what you're doing. The word API, you can grab all the text out of this document and send it to AI, but it doesn't grab all the formatting, all the tags, all the text. So when you try and replace something in redlines, you're searching for a string. And so if you're in the middle here and you search considering a withdrawal, that's fine. You'll find it, you'll replace it, fine. But if you're seeing, there's no A here, but if you fail to cooperate with us in any reasonable requests, new line, new bullet, those aren't necessarily captured well. And so you'll find that this was something that I struggled with for a long, long time. So I drafted a model, and this was just the basic. It was searching for text. And now the red lines had to format properly because it was searching for text. Can you replace it with HTML? You can, but you have to make that choice. Here, we had some basic bugs, but you're going to see new mechanisms for reliable red lines. And for a little bit, what I was trying to do was do fuzzy searching. And so if I said, if you had a bracket, if you fail to cooperate with us, you're going to fail the search because there is no actual A here. It is a bullet format. And so I was going, well, if you match 90% of the string, is that going to be okay? Can I strip out new lines, formatting, those kind of things? And so here you're going to see um, uh, fuzzy search, fuzzy match, fuzzy search. And in fact, Word has some built-in functions as well to handle fuzzy searches. I was getting into different problems because then the strings started getting weird, started getting very long. Instead, I was hoping that another mechanism we can use is delete and insert. So at the start, it was searching for this string, let's say, and it was just doing a replace function. And so instead, I went, go find the range and delete. So just hit backspace all the way through the range and fix it that way instead. And then you type it in instead of a straight replacement. That actually didn't go anywhere at all, really. And so the last and most successful way is a structural anchoring approach. And so instead of passing this all as text, I started passing it as paragraph. This is paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4. And that way, when you make changes, you go paragraph 3 and then search for the string. And so these bullets would be separate paragraphs. Each cell would be a separate paragraph, and you can reference it. If you need to get rid of all the bullets, you just say get rid of paragraphs 50 to 55, or replace a text in paragraph 50, and so on. So different ways of approaching this as well. And you'll find that we started looking at the charts. And even now, I will admit, charts aren't great. And so part of it was recognizing when I wanted to delete a whole chart. Uh, even with a mouse and keyboard and doing it manually, charting has never really been super competent. That's why it's hard to select here when I want to select the whole cell. All of that happening. Here, what I found was I have to actually go back to the previous paragraph. So in this case, this chart, I'd want to delete paragraphs 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 cells, but also reach into the previous and the next paragraph. And so there was a bunch of these little tips and tricks that I asked anti-gravity to create. Now, I didn't have to code, and this would be really, really annoying to code because I'd wipe out a whole approach, rewrite a new one, and then fiddle with it. But here, I am just talking to anti-gravity. I am playing my video games on the side and letting it run. And it's been really great because the red lines got way more reliable. I have no problems with paragraphs, text, and all of that. If you're doing an essay, this will work fantastic. It's just charts, a lot of weird bullets and sub-bullets that are having some problems. And over time, I might think of a new idea to try and build this out, and AI makes it easier. Now, other things that is really good is I could ask it to fix things, but I also made numerous changes to the interface. And so, for example, we talked about the glance feature. This was something that I added right an hour before this video because I went, this is something I've always wanted. Um, why don't I just add it? And this showed up perfect. This was super easy for the AI to do because there's nothing replacing the text. That has been the entire problem with this word plugin. If all I did was a chatbot on the side or analyses on the side, easy peasy. It is just the interaction between the two that's been problematic. So the glance feature, AI implemented it like that. Single shot, no problem. I even like the styling here. Um, will I make some tweaks? Maybe. I was thinking of getting rid of this button and putting it here as, a refresh symbol. But other than that, really simple, easy to do. Now, the other piece that I wanted to talk about that didn't show up as clearly, I think, in my chart is some of the things you don't think of. And so something that I found really helpful was passing the context to the AI. So every time you chat, the whole document is sent so that it has, or rather, it has it in its memory, the whole document. It knows what it's currently saying. But what is helpful is that now when I have something highlighted, I'm also passing that to the AI. So with the messages, they will get, here's a whole document. By the way, the user is focused here. The other thing that is useful, and let me just pull my document here, is originally I had a checkpoint system. This is just like through anti-gravity and what we're talking about right now, in that I want to revert because AI went completely nuts. Now, what's nice about Word is that you can Control Z and go backwards, like undo things. That's one way of going about it. But if I asked AI to make drastic structural changes throughout the document, I may want to just revert to a certain state. And so if I go back to start, I guess I didn't go all the way to a start, but the yellow is still there, but all the red lines are gone. And we can just jump back and forth between different versions as well. So originally, I had a section here where I had to manually create checkpoints. And that was never something that was going to be in the final version, but that was a minimal viable product. And that was something that was in working. Here, you'll see auto create checkpoints along the chat. That was when I made the decision, look, it's working and it has worked the last 10 versions. Let's make it automatic. And so for vibe coding to be successful, to build something more sophisticated, all I want to say is one, coding principles still matter. You still want to iteratively build. I could have described this exact version right at the start, possibly, and get it in one shot. But the reality is you want to build things simple first. Figure out what works, figure out your user experience, and then make changes along the way. Really important. Other thing is you can't take your brain out of it. Gemini gave me one version to create the red lines. It seemed to work, but I, as the human, have to be the one that starts guiding it and saying, this isn't working. We gotta go a new direction. So those kind of principles still important, and that means that if you know how this works, if you know how a plugin is created on Word, you know how the Word API works to connect the two, you have a massive advantage because somebody who doesn't will either have to spend a lot of time chatting with the chatbot to dig deeper and ask it, try different versions, explain to me what the differences are, or they will be running in circles because it will never get there. If I just kept going as I did for a little while, it would have kept going down this fuzzy search path. It would have gotten fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier, which means that the search is less and less and less reliable, more and more tolerant of weird characters, extra words, to a point where it won't even accurately find the section. In fact, that was what prompted me to move to another version. Okay, I think that I have talked enough, but yeah, I think this is a lot of fun. Vibe coding, you can do it really shoddily, and I have done a fair share of that as well. There are times when you want to hit up ChatGPT or Gemini and just say, make a 3D winter world, and it's fun to see what it is. You are very tolerant of the risks, of the lack of polish, but separately, if you want to build something that you can use that's more battle tested, you can still do that. There is no need necessarily for a programmer to write all the code themselves. You can vibe code and still think like a programmer. In fact, I had a lot of fun building this because it took out the drudgery of it. I would have never gotten a new approach. It would have been too time consuming. I would have went, ugh, I don't want to restart from scratch all of this approach and write 500 brand new lines. I probably would have been stuck at stage 2 or 3 and never gotten to this point. So, where am I going to go? Well, I might add a few new features. I did see some, internet searches and researching tools are built right in. That seemed kind of cool to add. And then the other thing is I might start auditing the code myself now. Now that's all built and it seems to be working fine, I, with a human mind, might look at it and see different ways to uh, think about it differently, see different ways to optimize it, to rewrite it, to repackage it. But I hope you found that interesting and useful. We're really not going to look at the code because I'm sure it's not great, but as long as it's functional, then it will work fine with me.